Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about something huge happening right inside the apps you probably use every day. Think about your favorite shopping or ride-hailing app. Well, they're in the middle of a new kind of war, a war for your digital wallet. And it's changing everything, especially in emerging markets.
So let's start with a really common problem, something millions of people deal with all the time. Have you ever tried to send money to someone in another country? For family or friends? It can be so slow and, man, can it be expensive. In a world where we can do almost anything instantly, you gotta ask, why is sending money still stuck in the dark ages? Well, here's the number. When you use a traditional service to send money, they usually take a cut of somewhere between 5 and 7%. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but think about it. For every $100 you send, 5, 6, even $7 just disappears in fees. And what's crazy is that with all the tech we have now, that number really hasn't changed much at all. Okay, so along came a potential solution, stablecoins, right? The idea was pretty simple. These are basically digital dollars. You could send them anywhere in the world almost instantly and for way, way less money. On paper, it looked like the perfect answer. But, and this is a really big but, there's a catch. It's something called the off-ramp problem. And this is that critical final step where the whole promise of cheap, easy transfers can kind of fall apart. So here's the thing. Sending the stablecoin from point A to point B, yeah, that part can be super cheap. But what happens when the person on the other end needs to turn that digital dollar back into their local currency? That's the off-ramp. And that step can come with its own set of high fees, which, you guessed it, can eat away at a lot of the money you thought you were saving. So you see, the real game changer isn't just about the stablecoin itself. The real innovation is figuring out how to get rid of that expensive last step altogether. What if you never had to convert the money back to local cash at all? And that's where this idea of a closed-loop ecosystem comes in. It works like this. You get sent money as a stablecoin, but instead of cashing it out, you just don't. You leave it in the app, and then you can spend that stablecoin directly on groceries, a ride, or whatever else you buy through that app. The money never leaves the app's world, so that whole off-ramp problem, it just goes away. Okay, so who's building these new worlds? Well, this is where the giants come in. We're talking about the biggest names in e-commerce and ride-hailing, and they're focusing their efforts on places like Latin America and Southeast Asia. It makes perfect sense, really. In regions where local currencies can be a bit unstable, people are often looking for the stability of something like the US dollar. And when I say giants, I mean giants. You've got Mercado Libre dominating Latin America with over 218 million users. Then in Southeast Asia, you have Grab with 180 million and Sea Limited, the company behind Shopee, with a massive 350 million plus. Just look at these numbers. These aren't just apps anymore. They're more like digital economies where hundreds of millions of people are already living their lives. So, as these companies race to build out these new financial ecosystems, they're not all doing it the same way. In fact, we're seeing two main strategies emerge. You can think of it as the walled garden versus the bridge. All right, let's break this down. First, you've got the walled garden approach, which is what Mercado Libre is doing. They actually created their own proprietary stablecoin. The goal? To keep you inside their world using their coin for everything. It's a high-risk, high-reward play because it gives them total control. Then you have the bridge model, which is Grab's strategy. They're not making their own coin. Instead, they're building a bridge to let you bring in existing, popular stablecoins like USDC. It's lower risk, way faster to get going, but it also means they have less control over the whole experience. But then there's the wild card, the sleeping giant, if you will, Sea Limited. Remember them? The biggest user base of them all. And so far, they've been pretty quiet about all this stablecoin stuff. But you have to wonder, what happens if they decide to jump in? With their scale, they could change everything overnight. Now, obviously, this whole transition isn't going to be a walk in the park. There are some pretty big hurdles that all of these companies have to get over before this becomes mainstream. Okay, here are the main challenges they're all facing. First, there's a consumer trust gap. Will people really trust an app like they trust a bank? Then there's the user experience. It has to be super simple. Of course, you have major security and depeg risks. And finally, the big unknown, regulatory uncertainty. What are governments going to say about all this? So when you put all the pieces together, you've got the tech, the different strategies, all these challenges, it really boils down to one single crucial thing. And here it is.
This whole competition isn't really about who has the best tech. It's not about the fastest blockchain or the coolest looking crypto wallet. At the end of the day, this whole thing is going to be decided by trust. And that's really the secret weapon these big brands have, right? Think about it. Companies like Mercado Libre or Grab have spent years, even decades, building a relationship with millions and millions of people. So they're in a unique position to take something new and, frankly, kind of complex, like stablecoins, and wrap it up in an experience that feels familiar, safe, and just easy. So that leaves us with the big question to chew on. As these giants fight it out for a piece of your digital wallet, who's going to win your trust first? Because whoever answers that question best won't just win the battle. They'll probably end up redrawing the entire map of how money moves around the world.